Hey everybody, it's Brooke with The Buttered Home and welcome to my messy kitchen. Tonight we have a very easy, really good recipe to share with you. Now I know what you're thinking, it's lasagna. It's lasagna. Every great family has a wonderful recipe for lasagna. So y'all know how I do things. I am very much a proponent of showing you different ways to do things, and here lately showing you healthier ways to do things. So I got a couple of things to share with you tonight, and one is how to more easily make lasagna, and the other is how to make it a little more healthy. So we have done a couple of things ahead of time for our healthy version because I'm feeding a crowd. I'm feeding like 2-3 families today, so I've made a ton of stuff ahead of time to make the lasagna. We're making a regular version for my folks, and we're making a healthy version for me and whoever else wants it. And then I have some friends who've been under the weather lately, so I'm taking them part of the healthier version too. So everything I've done, I've doubled. That's another great thing about lasagna, is that you can half it, you can double it, all those things. So I'm going to call out the regular quantities for just one making of it, but just know that you can double it. So if my stuff looks like it's a lot, it's because I've doubled it. So we've done some things ahead of time for our healthy version, and we're going to swap over and show you how we did that, how we prepped our eggplant to make our healthy version of our lasagna. So let's watch how we did that now. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do it. I use one really large eggplant. Like, this is just 2 halves of it. So this gives you a good idea of how big that joker was. So that's half of it, right? So you can either peel it like I've done, or you can leave it on there. But I cut the woody top off and I cut the bottom just to give me an even spot. And then I like to I cut it in 4ths. This way you have a good clean edge here and here. So if you're using a mandolin, you can swap it back and forth, which allows you to get the maximum out of these without hurting yourself. I also have to add, if you use a mandolin, please use a guard. So we slice these up, and this really, one large eggplant will make 3 or 4 half sheet pans full of the eggplant. So I usually have plenty of this. They cook way down, so they'll get thin, they'll get crispy, and you'll have plenty. And if you don't, you can crumble these up, or you can put them in the refrigerator and eat them on a salad. They are fantastic. What we're going to do now is I'm just going to show you. I've got one sheet pan ready, and then I like to slice them on my mandolin slicer somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 an inch thick. Now this is one of those end pieces that I had, so when I use my mandolin and I get down to the last little bit, I'll just take a knife and just slice off anywhere between 1/4 to 1/2 an inch, and those cook up just fine. We're going to brush these with a little olive oil and hit them with just a little bit of salt and pepper, and then we're going to place them into a 400-degree oven for about 20 minutes. We're going to check them, and we're going to turn them once at about 10 minutes, and then they'll get brown and crispy, and we'll come back and show you what they look like. But this is a great alternative to noodles, and you can do so much with them, so stay with us. I mean, really guys, that eggplant could not be easier. You just have to be careful. So here's what it looks like when it comes out, and I like to do mine about 1/4 of an inch thick so that it gets just a tad crispy. I've allowed these to cool and loosened them from the pan so that they're ready, and some of them that were a little thicker look like this. But either way, it really doesn't matter. You just want to have them cooked enough to where they're easier to lay in the pan to use for the lasagna. So we're going to talk about mostly how to do this the healthy way with the eggplant. You could also do the same thing with zucchini. Just whatever is in season, whatever you can get your hands on, but the method is the same, cooking like we did ahead of time. I have also browned 1 pound of very lean ground turkey and 1 pound of lean turkey Italian sausage. These things are great. You can find them at just about any grocery store, and I have drained them and allowed them to cool. Now the great thing about this is you can do a lot of this ahead of time like we did with the eggplant. But if you're making a traditional lasagna with the noodles, I'm here to tell you there's an easier way, and we're just going to talk just a little bit about this. And I'm not paid by Barilla, but Barilla makes these oven-ready lasagna noodles, and y'all, they look like big sheets of like that thin wafer stuff like you get at Communion Sunday in church. But there's no cooking involved. These are fantastic. If you see them in your grocery store, get them. And literally you have a 25-minute cook time, which just happens to be the same cook time that we have using the vegetables. So this is a very easy and versatile recipe that you can do with the oven-ready noodles, or you can do with the pre-cooked veggie noodles like we've done. So I've got my pan lightly greased, and yes, I'm using a disposable pan because this is going to be a giveaway lasagna. Now, to a pretty large mixing bowl, I have 1 pound of ground turkey cooked and drained and cooled, and 1 pound of ground Italian turkey sausage cooked and grained and cooled. And to them I have added my marinara sauce. Now, not all marinara sauce is created equally. Read your labels and try to get one that has like the lowest sugar content. I know that Rayo's makes one, Aldi's has one, but if you are, if you're going to all this trouble to eat healthier and whatnot, marinara sauce has like a lot of hidden sugar in it. So just make sure that you're checking that. We also have a really good homemade marinara that we make in our Instant Pot that is also low in sugar. So if you have an electric pressure cooker and wanted to try your hand at making homemade marinara, that is a very good way to control what goes in the things that you use. So we have mixed those together, and we're going to set those to the side. Now, in another mixing bowl, I have 1 cup of softened low-fat cream cheese. I have 1 cup of low-fat cottage cheese. And yes, before you ask, you can use ricotta. We just like the texture that cottage cheese provides, and sometimes I have a hard time finding ricotta. I mean, I'll just be honest. Then we have 1 egg, and then we have about 1/8 of a cup of grated mozzarella, and I like to use the finely grated for this, and about 1/8 of a cup of finely grated Parmesan cheese. Now, it's real easy. I just kind of whip those eggs. Well, in my case, it's eggs, but in your case, if you're making just a single recipe, it's just the egg. I just kind of whip those eggs and then just kind of smush my cream cheese down. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to get all the lumps out. That's one of the great things about this is it can be kind of lumpy, kind of chunky, really, really good stuff. So we just mix all those together, and then we're ready for our seasonings. I like to season this layer because the sausage has so much seasoning already. So you don't need to put a lot in, and the marinara sauce is seasoned as well. So you don't need a lot of seasoning. So we just kind of add to as we go and we put it on this layer, because really the only seasoning you're getting is the natural saltiness from that Parmesan cheese, and 1/8 of a cup is not going to provide a lot. So to taste, for your taste, your dietary restrictions, we're going to add just a little bit of salt, and I like using this pink salt. It's pretty. It's a little bit better for you too. And then we're going to add in some fresh ground pepper. And then if you don't have individual containers of things like oregano and parsley and basil, those things, you can oftentimes find just Italian seasoning. And that's what we've done. And it has all those things. So we're going to put those in there. And then to that we add a little garlic powder, probably about a teaspoon. This has got to go a long way. And a little onion powder. Those together are really good. Now we're going to just mix that up. And literally, this is the same way you make any kind of lasagna. The difference are in your proteins. They're also in your cheese mixture. Mozzarella and Parmesan are already what's considered low moisture, so they are low fat. Look how pretty all those seasonings are in that layer too. Love it, love it. By using a lower fat cottage cheese and by using a lower sugar marinara sauce and then substituting the noodles for eggplant or zucchini, you're really changing things. So this is a really good illustration of a traditional recipe that's been rethought, reconfigured to make your life a little healthier. So I'm not going to bore you with the whole assembly, but we'll do one complete layer. So I've lightly sprayed my pan. Make sure I'm in the camera. And then I'm going to put just a scoop of that meat sauce and marinara on the bottom. And we're going to spread that out. Maybe just get just a little tad more. So that if you're using the oven ready noodles, the trick to that is these are cooked by this marinara sauce. So as a habit that I have formed, I just always start with that sauce on the bottom for all of those same reasons. So now I'm going to take my eggplant and I am going to layer it along the bottom. Now I used a really large eggplant and it goes a very long way. It actually made 3 whole half sheet pans full. So that tells me that I'm gonna have probably more than 3 layers of eggplant. So it doesn't have to be perfect either. Just kind of get you a good layer in there. And then we come back with more of that meat sauce. And we just kind of dollop it over the top. And I don't know about y'all, but when I make lasagna, I make a huge mess. A huge mess. Then we come in with our egg and our cheese and our cream cheese mixture. And I'm just going to dollop that probably in about 4 places. This is a big pan. And then I just run my fork through it, kind of evenly distribute it. So if you're using the oven ready noodles, the principle is the same as it is with the eggplant or your vegetables. You want to just make sure that everything is good and saturated. So at this point, we are going to complete this layer with some more mozzarella cheese. And this recipe calls for 1 1/8 cups. So you've got 1/8 of a cup inside of your cheese and cottage cheese mixture. And then it calls for 1 1/8 cups of parm. So it also has the 1/8 in it. So What you have left after you mix this up, you just kind of evenly distribute through here. So then we start with another eggplant layer. And this can be done 2 or 3 times, just according to how big your pan is when you make this. And you can make them all go all different kind of ways, or you can make them overlap like that. It just really does not matter. And if you're going to end with this layer, you're going to want to make sure that you have enough of that marinara sauce to completely cover this. And just for the sake of you getting to see one, we'll make this one just a 2-layer dish. And I'm going to show you how I end and top mine. So we come in with just a light layer of that marinara, just a light layer. And kind of just spoon it over the top. Then, so it'll be good and cheesy, we're gonna put just a light layer of the cottage cheese and ricotta in there. And just run our spoon or fork, whatever you're using, whatever you got, over the top. Put a light layer of cheese, mozzarella, sorry. And the reason why we're doing a light layer is because we're going to come back and top it with more of that marinara. So you'll always want to end with a very good sealing layer of marinara, which means you want to have a little bit more left than normal. And then we're going to create a lid on the top, and I ran out of my other mozzarella, so we're using the big cut mozzarella this time. So you're going to end with a heavy layer of marinara and a heavy layer of cheese. And then I like to just do a light dusting of parm. It gives it a little bit of a nice flavor. So now we cover this tightly. And you can do one of 2 things. You can freeze it just like this, and it'll last in the freezer for up to about 2 months. You can take it out and you can cook it a little while longer, for maybe 40 minutes from frozen. Or you can allow it to thaw at room temperature or in the refrigerator overnight and cook it the same way we're about to cook it. So this will go, if you're going to cook it now, you can put it into a preheated 375-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. Then we'll take the top off, and then we'll put it back in the oven for another 5 to 10 minutes, or until the internal temperature reaches 165 degrees. That is all you do. It's the same as regular lasagna. To me, it's really better. You know, the pasta's great, but when I think about lasagna, I think about all of the other things. So it really is no different, if you ask me. So we're going to pop this in the oven. We're going to take the lid off after it's cooked for about 20 to 25 minutes. Let it get brown and finish melting that cheese on top. We'll come back and we will scoop out a serving of it and show you how delicious it is. So stay with us. Okay, everybody, we are back. We have finished first a 25-minute cook time, and then I took the foil off, put it back into the 375-degree oven without the lid, and just let the top get all nice and brown. I'm gonna come around because I honestly forgot to put my camera back over it and show you, but it's all nice and brown and it's perfect. So we let it sit, let it rest for about maybe 10, 15, you can even go 20 minutes and cover it back up if you want to. And this is good. I know I mentioned before freezing it pre-cooked. You can let it cool all the way and wrap it up really good and pop it in the freezer or the refrigerator, and it'll keep just like this, already cooked. You know, everything was cooked except for the egg and the cheese mixture before we started. So the 25-minute cook time is really all you need, and it can be reheated again and again, and it's fantastic, and it makes a ton of lasagna. And I made 2 and a really small one with what I had by doubling it. So it makes a lot of lasagna. 2 layers is plenty. 3 layers is a gracious plenty. But let me come around and show you how good and done it is on the top. I could hold it up right here, but it wouldn't do it justice. So I'm gonna come around and see if I can't maneuver it in front of the camera. See, it's nice and browned on the top, and it's done. You've got those layers with the eggplant, just like you would have, let me move it, with any noodles. And if you use the oven ready noodles, you'll get the same result in the same amount of time. So, one of the things that I did want to mention, I've done this eggplant lasagna a couple of different ways. I've not peeled the eggplant, and I have peeled the eggplant. I've noticed though that when you peel the eggplant, it's a lot easier to cut with a fork. Sometimes if you leave the peel on there, it's a little harder to cut, and you just have a little harder time because it's a little tenuous. But look at that, y'all. Oh, it's hot. Oh, it's still hot. I've let this thing sit for like 15 minutes and it's hot. Y'all, it's perfect. You won't miss the pasta at all. You just won't. Now let's taste it. Oh my goodness. Everything that you would expect in lasagna, and really a little bit more, because the eggplant adds an interesting flavor all of its own, because we roasted it in the oven before we started. In my opinion, not only is this better for you, but it really tastes better too, because you have that roasted vegetable in it. Y'all know I love me some roasted vegetables. So, lasagna, yeah, it's a recipe everybody's got. But as long as you think about how to do things just a little bit differently, you can have a different dish that somebody might eat and say, that was good, and that was healthy? Really? So you won't really miss a thing. You can do like I did and make half your lasagna. Well, you can make a whole lasagna, just one recipe, not 2 like I did, and then do half regular noodles and of the oven ready and half of the roasted eggplant, and you can totally have one person in your house who's trying to do better and still satisfy the other people who may not necessarily be. So it's just food for thought. It's just a way to rethink your food. And you know, I talk a lot about the 80-20 rule. If you want regular lasagna, let that be your 20% and make it the old-fashioned way. You can even boil noodles if you want to, or even make homemade noodles. But that's a thing. Some people do that, and it's fantastic. Me, not a big bread maker. Y'all should know that already. So I've not ventured into making homemade pasta, although I've had it, and it's so much better than store-bought. But this Barilla back here, oven-ready pasta, I mean, that's the ticket. If you want something that tastes like fresh, homemade pasta, that'll do it with the oven-ready lasagna. So those are lots of ideas. I've been all over the place today, and I appreciate y'all sticking with me. As usual, this recipe can be found over at thebutteredhome.com, just like all of our recipes. We're real proud of our Southern comfort foods and all of our recipes that feature new, healthier ways to have those comfort foods. Also, If you're not already, make sure that you're following us on all of our social channels. We have a really good time wherever we are, and we want you there with us. And as always, if you want all of our videos in one convenient place, be sure that you head over to YouTube and search The Buttered Home and hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified when we drop new videos like this one. Y'all, I love y'all, but I gotta go eat lasagna. And I might taste the food on camera, but I'm not gonna eat the whole serving in front of y'all. Mama would skin me. So y'all have a great week, and be here next week when we will have a recipe that is not so healthy. From the buttered home to your home. We love y'all. Bye.